just say hello to me?
Hello to me.
Just talk a little bit if we're like, this is the volume I would normally talk at if I was on video.
How's my hair?
It's good.
Okay, good. No bloopers that are not approved by me, got it?
Okay.
You got it? You got it. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. I'm so nervous.
You okay?
I don't like public speaking, and that's what this feels like a little bit.
This is not public. There is nobody here but us.
Just thousands of followers.
For the couple hundred of you who regularly tune into all my videos, hello, you already know who I am. Many of you have met. You do this every time we do a video together. I look over and you're like, So
I don't like this.
At this point in my history with this channel, you've all met Lindsay at some point or another. In all the personal vlogs. I'm not gonna get through. I'm just doing the intro. In all the personal vlogs what did we do last summer? We did a bunch of cool things. We did.
I don't remember.
You took me for my birthday.
I took you to the castle.
Yeah, to the.
I don't know if that was a vlog.
The Gillette.
Yeah.
Castle, which that was a vlog, which was the Sherlock Holmes day. That was really cool. We did for your mom's birthday. We did the tubing down the river. We did all kinds of good stuff. We went to find that waterfall and walked around that little spot. Yeah,
it made us seem way more outdoorsy than we actually are.
That's right. Those are all outdoorsy. Those
were like the only 3 outdoors things we did all summer.
That we've done in our entire relationship.
Yeah, basically.
So speaking of relationship, that actually was a perfect seg because this is a video that I've been requested to do so many times, which people keep asking how we manage our relationship when I'm on the road so much. And this is actually an ideal time, I think, to be talking about that because I am not currently on the road, obviously right now, but I haven't been on the road much just the past few weeks, really. Like this month, next month has been the least amount of travel for me professionally or otherwise, I think, since we met, kind of, right?
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, my schedule's been pretty empty.
It's kind of all a blur.
Yeah, so I guess there's nothing really specific that we're planning on talking about. I just thought that we would have a conversation about it because I get asked all the time in the YouTube comments and in messages and in our personal life. We have friends, I have friends and colleagues and other magicians who have all asked about how we make that work. And I think it would be more interesting to hear more from you. I know that's like the last thing you want to hear because you're like, you just talk and I'll sit here.
You're like, natural. I'm just like, I feel like I need like a prompting question, but basically just what is it like?
Yeah, what is, I guess maybe what's difficult about it when I'm on the road? How have we managed to make that work and to maintain a strong and stable relationship, if we have?
Oh, yes.
I think we have.
Yes.
I think that's why we have personal friends that recently, each of them has independently recently asked me how we manage our relationship so well with how much I'm on the road, because one of them is starting to do a little bit more kind of, not travel, but be out of the house a little bit more with some projects that they have going on.
I'm gonna go start with what makes it difficult, I guess.
Yeah, why don't we start with what makes it difficult, then we can talk about maybe how we've overcome those things and all that.
One of the most difficult things would be trying to plan anything. So planning vacations, or if we want to go to a concert, or we want to do anything that involves like more than 1 day advance planning is hard, because it's probably my least favorite thing about your schedule, because sometimes I want to surprise you with things, and if it's 6 months from now and I book it, then that's fine, but then I have to either tell you, which ruins the surprise, so you don't book something, or you can't take any jobs that day and something might come along that's really good. So I feel like that's an issue, or can be an issue. So usually I resolve that by just kind of not doing anything that's a surprise, which is a little bit sad.
You nailed it for Christmas though.
Yeah, that was just lucky.
Well, it was a few months out.
Yeah.
And yeah, that we went to the G3 concert. awesome. But you had tickets, what? I mean, 3-4 months in advance, and then...
Yeah, I'm probably like 3.
Yeah, and then you had said, I remember after you gave them to me, you had said that after you bought them, you just kept waiting for Christmas, checking my calendar to find out if I was going to put anything on it, and that worked out. I didn't, sorry.
But then, like, you bought me tickets to something, which we'll get to later in a future vlog.
In a future vlog, yeah.
But, like, you were able to just do that because it was on a Sunday, and you were like, she has the weekends off, so it's no problem. And you were able to decide you wanted to take that day off, so it's a little different on my end.
To be fair, that's one of my least favorite things about my job as well. Like, always, always has been. Not just that you can't surprise me with things, but I can't surprise myself. Like, I can't decide to do anything. I can say, here's the thing I'd like to do. But like you said, if it's more than a few weeks away, I can't even make plans for myself. Because if I choose to take a vacation or choose to do something, like this weekend, you guys just, at the time you're seeing this video, a couple days ago, you saw a video with me at a magic convention for a day. I waited, and I spent 3 weeks leading up to it going, I'm sure I'm going to get a booking and I won't be able to go to this convention. But yeah, I'm not able to go, plan my own stuff either, so.
Well, plus I felt like you weren't sure if you wanted to go because you felt bad because it was on a Saturday all day, and I only have Saturday and Sundays off, and I work, like, I leave at 8 a.m. and come home sometimes at 9 p.m. Monday through Friday, so it was kind of like, well, that's one of our only days together. Do you really want to go? And obviously you want, and it was fine because we can't just not do anything.
That's interesting.
Well, I remember you asking if it was okay if you went. Not that you need my permission, but...
No, but I don't need your permission, but that's another aspect of it, which is that because I am typically on the road so much, when I have a few days that I'm at home, I feel... Obligated is the wrong word, but I feel like it's important for our relationship that we spend the time that I'm home together, which means we are both... when I'm home, we're both less likely to take invitations to go out with our individual friends. Yeah. I'm less likely to do something like go to a magic convention.
But we need to reserve, like, what's the word?
Book. Yeah,
like stack up our time together if you're going to be going away for a while.
I guess we kind of just weaved into some of the things that we do to overcome that, which is, sometimes we actually have to sacrifice our own individual social lives outside of the relationship to make sure that we're maintaining this first. Although I don't feel like we've ever really had trouble. I mean, we've been doing this pretty naturally since the beginning, right? Yeah. And I guess, I don't know if it was helpful that I was already doing this. My career was kind of just at the beginning of its huge upswing. Like I was already making it. I was already like moderately successful on my own terms. But when we met and started dating, I was just like on the beginning of what became, this.
I don't know, like as you became more successful, like you might not have wanted to take every gig if we had just started, when we started dating, because you wanted to hang out with me more and get to know me more and stuff and build a relationship, versus like when I came into the picture in actuality, it was already really built up. So it was just kind of like, I just sort of inserted myself into your life and just went with the flow versus... I
wonder what would have happened if you had, because you were in your first semester of grad school. You had just, it was a strange, that was an interesting time.
I just started 2.5 months before that in grad school.
Yeah, so you had done your undergrad, you'd been out for a few years, you had been living with some roommates at one point, right? And then you had, like, just before we met, a few months earlier, moved back home with your parents because you had decided to go at grad school, and like most people, it was great that they were there and they offered. They said you don't need to, whatever, you can live here and go to grad school. So you had just moved there. So you were in a situation where your schedule, apart from your classes, was relatively open and relatively flexible. I don't know what would have happened if we had met, if you were doing the job you have now and I do what I do. If we had met now, I don't know how, if you're just getting into a relationship and you're doing this kind of travel or have that kind of a schedule, I don't know how you manage that. And I'm not sure if I have any advice for that. I think that's a lot more difficult.
Well, I never dated anyone before you that was self-employed or that had to travel for work, so it was a whole new world for me.
Dates on Sundays.
Oh my God, that's my favorite story. One of my favorite stories. Our first date blind date was on a Sunday night, and I thought that was very strange because I had to get up for work the next morning, or school, whatever, and he, like, it didn't even occur to him till I mentioned it probably a few weeks later, and you were like, oh, I didn't even notice. It's like, all right.
Yeah, it didn't strike me as odd or strange that it was on a Sunday. I picked a Sunday because my work week was usually Thursday through Saturday. It's when most events at that time, now it's kind of all week, all the time, but at that time I was working Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, which is pretty typical for entertainers. So I suggested a Sunday because that was when I had free time. So do you feel like we've had anything that, I was gonna like lean backwards, but if like the couch goes too far back, I feel
that's
too
casual.
Too casual.
That's too casual.
I was starting to feel like awkwardly stiff just sitting here. By the way, I noticed that like if you're a body language expert out there, we have this like chasm between us. It's not because we're not.
He made me sit here.
It's not because we're not close. It's because
spot.
This is the framing that looked better on.
I was gonna sit closer, and you told me to move over more that way.
Come sit closer.
Okay.
Come sit closer.
That's better.
Any body language experts out there watching this? We probably just threw off the framing.
I did turn myself towards you though, so that should tell people that I like you.
That's true.
So what were you gonna ask me?
I don't know. I sidetracked myself.
He does that. Well, I do remember the first time that you went away for a big trip. It was the first summer. And
it was the fall semester.
Yeah,
the
it was
first
August.
fall semester, August, the crazy college tour.
We went for almost 2 weeks. We'd only been dating for like 9 or 10 months, and we had been living together for maybe 3 months. But summer is really light for him, so we had spent a lot of time together during the summer. And then, of course, college season started. So you left.
Yeah, it was.
We definitely got into a few arguments over stupid stuff. I remember.
I do remember that now. But no, I remember having a big argument on the phone. You had called me right after I had landed because you had watched my flight land. And I was trying to, you guys have watched me do it. I wasn't vlogging back then, but you've seen me do it now. I was like getting off a plane and I had my stuff with me. I had to pick up my bag and go find the rental car and get the rental car and take a shuttle and then, drive the car to the hotel. And then I only had an hour before I had to like be at the school to load in, set up. And in the middle of that chaos, which is my life on the road, you called me because you weren't you had never done that with me. You'd never seen me do that. You didn't, my flight had landed and you called and you just you were like, I miss you and I want to talk. Like, and that was it. You were just like, I want to talk. Your flight landed. How was your flight? And I was in no mood to talk because I was like in the chaos of trying to get my bag and get to the rental car and make sure the contact was on my phone and check in with the school. And we got in a big fight about that night after the show where I was trying to explain and you were like, so like, you don't have time for me. And it was just like, two completely different worlds. But then I feel like we talked about it like once I was back from that trip and we talked through it. All the stuff that I now like make half of my living talking about on stage about taking on other perspectives and understanding and all that stuff. Like we went through that and you explained what it felt like from your point of view that I was kind of blowing you off.
Yeah. And
I had to explain what I just said, the chaos of what I'm in the middle of when I'm doing that. And it got much, much better, I think, for both of us after that.
Well, I know how stressed you get, so I don't want you to feel like you need to call me right away.
Yeah.
But I feel like I understood more when I flew by myself last April to LA and I had to get a connecting flight. And that was like, I think, though it was the first time I ever flew by myself. What was that? That was me pointing to the link that just showed up over their head as you mentioned that. I was like,
so you
what's
can go check
happening?
out that vlog. That was
you were like, I'm number one. It wasn't my first time doing connecting flight, but like I said, by myself. So I understood more like lugging your stuff across the airport. And I was in Minneapolis. It was not a small airport. And then, can we talk about one more thing?
Yeah, let me just double check that everything's still filming.
Not entirely related, but a little bit related. And it bothers me. So I just want to say it because now I have a platform, so I'm going to use it. No, not about you. About something other people say. Relax.
Oh, okay.
So, you already know this, but I'm going to say it anyway. So, like, a lot of times people ask me, like, what I do for a living that don't know me, and then they ask what you do for a living. Oh, you already know this is going. Okay. So, I'll say my little spiel about what I do for a living. But I don't really go into detail unless people ask more questions because, quite frankly, it can be pretty depressing and most people don't really necessarily want to hear it, which is fine.
For the record, in case you're new to the channel, and we have a lot of new subs lately, so thank you for being here. Lindsey is a marriage and family therapist.
The short version of what I do is I go into people's homes and I do therapy with kids and their families who are at risk of being hospitalized for psychiatric reasons. So there's a lot of trauma history that we have to talk about and abuse and neglect and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's not really something I go into detail about for obvious reasons, confidentiality, but also because people don't really want to hear about it. And then when they ask what he does, like, if we get to that point, it's way more interesting and more fun. Anyways, so I'll tell them he's a magician, and then I know what they say to you. They ask if I'm your assistant or something. But then to me, they'll say, oh, do you get to go with him on trips? Because I tell them that he travels. And that bugs me because on the one hand, I can understand, like, they just can't think of anything else to say. It just seems like a natural follow-up question. On the other hand, I don't know. Like, first of all, who says I want... This probably makes me sound really bitter, but...
No, it's okay.
First of all, who says I want to travel with him all the time? I've seen it. It's not necessarily that exciting. It's pretty stressful.
You've seen it too.
And I have been on a few trips. And second of all, like, it's just assuming that I don't have anything better to do. Like, I don't have my own life. Like, I have my, you know, I went to school, I went to grad school, I have my master's degree, I have my whole own career I'm building. Like, I don't know. And the thing is, like, when I've thought about it, I just feel like if the positions were reversed and I was the one traveling as a magician or some other job, no one would be asking Brian, oh, do you get to go with her? Because they would just assume that he has some really big important corporate job he needs to go to. So they would either say, oh, that must be hard on you because she's gone all the time. Or they would say, oh, and what do you do? But no one says, oh, and what do you do to me? They say, oh, do you get to go with him? And I'm like, why is that assumed that I'm just going to go with him? So I feel like that's kind of the low-key sexist part of it.
Yeah, so what's interesting is that people actually ask me that about you.
If I get to go with you?
They ask me that all the time. It's the number one question that people ask me. But usually when they ask me, I'm not with you. So I'll mention that I'm married, and I won't have said anything else about you yet at that point, and they'll just go, oh, does your wife get to travel with you? And again, they mean well by the question. You can tell that they're like, oh, does your wife get to travel with you? And my answer is always, no, she has a full-time job. Always shuts down the conversation. They never follow up. They absolutely...
Do you think they should?
Yeah. The natural follow-up is, oh, what does your wife do? But they never do. And I mean, sometimes, you know, occasionally someone does. And I'll usually volunteer the information anyway because I think it's fascinating what you do, and also much... I think it's much more interesting.
And I feel like when I respond, when people ask me that, if I get to go with you, I have to act like I feel really bad about it. They'll be like, oh, do you get to go with him? I'm like, oh, no, you know, like, I have a job, and he travels a lot, but, like, it's okay. Because I can't just be like, no, our lives are great, and I'm happy in my job, because, I mean, I guess I could, but I don't know how to explain it. Like, people just expect me to want to go, so that's the inflection in the question. Yeah,
and again, like, I understand where the question's coming from, but you know, that's the problem though, is that when if you were to actually answer that sincerely and say, well, no, and I've gone a few times, and to be honest, I wouldn't really want to, like, it's not that much fun, it's not that exciting, you know, like, you would just, if you were coming with me while I was working, you would just be getting schlepped around from place to place. Like, I don't do any sightseeing almost ever, but you would sound like a jerk saying that, which reminds me of how, you know, if I'm out with friends or in a social situation and someone, you know, introduces me to someone else, they go, oh, this is Brian, he's the magician, and someone goes, hey, you know, can you show us a magic trick? I'm always a jerk to say no. I mean, I say no because just like a doctor isn't going to check out your rash just because you met a doctor who's a friend of a friend in a bar, you know, like your sister. Like you know, like if you're, you know, you wouldn't ask a doctor to work for free if you just met them in a bar, or an accountant to look over your spreadsheet if you bumped into them at a restaurant. But you know, say, oh, you're a magician, show us a trick. But if you say no, it doesn't matter if there's good reasons or a good explanation, you sound like a jerk, no matter what. So I can understand that. I don't know if that was helpful at all or interesting. If you are self-employed, or if your significant other is self-employed, or if they travel, or you travel, you're thinking about it. I don't know. If you're doing anything related to what we were just talking about, and you have more questions, obviously let me know. Let us know in the comments section of the video. We can always do a follow-up. I can't imagine how I'm going to cut this down. We've filmed for well over half an hour.
Well, everything I said were perfect sound bites, so you can't cut any of my part, so you're just going to cut yourself.
It's true. I might have to pull a Peter McKinnon. He recently uploaded like a 25 or 30 minute video, which was just an extended conversation between him and like another YouTuber about creativity. This might end up just making more sense as a extended conversation. But in any regard, thanks so much for checking this out, listening, especially if you're here all the way to the end. As always, I'm Brian Miller.
I'm Lindsey Miller. Can we say the slogan together?
We can say. I wish I had T-shirts. I'm working on T-shirts that are gonna have the slogan on it, but I wish I had them.
No T-shirts.
But are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, I'll count from 3. All right, 3, 2, 1. And always remember, our world is a shared experience. It sounds so fake when I say it like that, but seriously, our world is a shared experience. Thanks so much for sticking with me. Have a great day. You did great. You did it. You got more comfortable after the beginning. Once we got into it, yeah, you were great. We had the conversations.
This is how we did it.
This is how we had the conversation.